Hiya, I'm Beth Henry and I'm part of the senior management team at Little One Nursery. We've been open for 18 years and I've been here for 17 of those years as part of the management team. Okay, so we have a recruitment flowchart that we follow. When we have an opening for an apprentice, we follow the flowchart. We let James at Showcase know that we have got an opening so that he can look out for candidates for us, and we also advertise on Indeed. Once we have some applicants through, we invite them in for a relaxed chat, or we'll do it over the telephone at their convenience, whatever works well for them. Get to know them a little bit, just chat about what they've kind of been doing over the past few years, why they'd like to go into childcare and become an apprentice, and then a little bit about how an apprenticeship works. If they're interested after the chat, they then come in for a trial for 2 hours, have a tour of the setting, meet their mentor, and then stay in the room that we think we've got the opening in for a couple of hours and have a play and see if they like it. If they do, they then have a 2-day trial, which is paid, and then after the 2-day trial, if they commence employment with us, we will then put them on a 2-week probation to see if they like it before we commence the apprenticeship with them, just so it's a two-way thing to see if they're happy in the setting, if they definitely think that's what they want to do, and then we will let Showcase know and we get the apprenticeship undergoing. We've used apprentices for the past 18 years since we've opened. We find them really valuable. They become part of the team. We treat them the same as we would a qualified practitioner or another member of the team. We find with apprentices, they come really fresh, really willing to learn, regardless of the age of the apprentice. If you find the right candidate, then they're really mouldable, and if they're willing to learn, we can get them up to that high standard that we expect from our staff, and then they can stay on the apprenticeship with us throughout the duration, and then it flows straight into becoming a qualified member of the team with us. They're full of energy, and they're always willing to help, and they can be really helpful as an extra pair of hands for daily tasks. Okay, so we offer a lot of support. We are very lucky how we stand that we have a senior management team, so there's 3 of us here most days, as well as room leaders, so we have the extra cover built in that we can spend some time with the apprentices, because when they first get started they need to have a mentor, and with the mentor they go through a induction folder, which is partly all the paperwork from Showcase, that is starting them off for like they're on the off the job hours, the learning and development charts and things that they need to fill in, as well as our induction process, which is reading all the policies, induction bits and bobs. So we have a full programme that they follow, which obviously does take time because you need to have a member of staff with them to do it. So that's normally on a one-to-one basis, either with the management team or one of the senior team downstairs. They have a named mentor, which will stay with them throughout their progression throughout the apprenticeship. We do weekly targets with the mentor and supervision level with us as well. So obviously they go into the same supervision cycle as other employees do as well. We invest time throughout the whole apprenticeship, starting with the induction and following through, setting weekly targets, talking with their mentors to see how they're progressing, to make sure they're making the progress they need to for their qualification, but also to become a qualified key person. So they will buddy and shadow their mentor or a qualified person in their room, and then they will slowly take on more responsibility as time goes on, so that they can then become a key person slowly over time, so that when they're qualified they take on that full responsibility of becoming a key person. So we invest a lot of time at the start, which you have to have the people available to be able to do that, so that when they've qualified they're a really good practitioner up to the high standard we expect, and then they're ready to become the qualified key person that you need in your team. They need obviously a little bit more guidance because they're new to this profession. They need some help with learning just daily tasks, but obviously all the things that underpin what we do. So we go into the curriculum in a bit more detail with them. Our policies, we'll take time to make sure we do a new starters questionnaire to see if they're all okay with all the policies, that they understand our procedures. There's an induction book that we go back to, and we say simple things like, do you know all the children's names? Do you know the routines? How are you learning this? How's this happening? So that we can keep a steady progress on them. So it's slightly different in terms of a qualified, because they kind of go about their day. They have support if they need it, but they're pretty self-sufficient with their own key group, and they've got the team around them to support. With an apprentice, you just have to spend some more time with them. They need a lot more support and guidance. But if you choose the right candidate and you know you've got a good training programme, and you've got obviously the help of the assessors, and Showcase to come back to help as well, because they obviously have time out of the room with the assessors, and they have time being observed, and then obviously they have time out of the room as well to complete their qualification, completing off their job charts, things like that. So there's a lot to it, but it just takes a little bit of organising and having qualified people that are also ready to take on apprentices to help them. So we buddy up and we find that works well. But it's just really having some more time to spend with them, because they have more questions naturally, because they're still learning. And so it's just a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra support and care, and then they grow into the person that the practitioner they want to be. The tutor may come in and spend the whole morning with us, and they might spend an hour and a half with each apprentice. They go down into the room sometimes and observe things that they need to tick off for whatever task they may be on, or they may need time out of the room upstairs away from the children so they can do some recordings with them. They help them with their work, and then they will come and always chat to us and give us feedback, which is really useful, because we want to know how they're progressing, we want to know how we're able to help them, and if there's anything we might need to keep an eye on for them, or actually they may just need a little bit more support to build their knowledge and understanding of certain topics. So a lot of it comes naturally as you do the job, because it's so hands-on that you learn a lot practically as you're doing it day to day. But then there's lots of things also that underpin what we do that you just need a little bit more time to go into detail with. So all the tutors from Showcase will spend a lot of time letting us know, either via email or face-to-face meetings, phone calls, just so that we can be on the same page as everyone, because it's a collective agreement between the three of us that actually we want to get them to endpoint, we want them to finish, we want them to be qualified. So yeah, it's just having that really good, open, honest relationship with them, and they're all lovely. They all come in and they all dedicate their time, and we have really good feedback from our apprentices as well, that they are really helpful. Because obviously some of them are quite young, some of them have come straight from school, some of them have done alternative things in the meantime. So they're all coming from different places, and obviously everyone has different learning needs. Some are just, it just naturally happens. Sometimes people need explaining it to in a bit more detail, which we're happy to do, but also the tutors are happy to do as well. So they really do take the time with them, which is really, really nice and really beneficial for them. So as it is a three-way agreement between us, the learner, and the apprenticeship provider, we obviously have our part that we have to uphold, which is to be able to allocate and give them some time as much as we can throughout the week. Sometimes it differs from week to week. Sometimes we have busier weeks with staff on holiday and things, so they may get a little bit more time one week and then a little bit less the next. But averagely overall, we give them some time away from the children, so they have time to really sit down, think, complete some of their tasks. We say if they do it here when they have their allocated time out, we're always here to help them answer any questions, because sometimes it's how the question's worded. They might know the answer, but it's kind of unpicking that question to make them realise and give them that confidence that yes, you do know the answer, and they might need just a little bit of steering in the right direction. So we give them lots of time out of the room, as much as we can facilitate. You have to kind of forward plan your time a bit, because obviously we have to maintain ratios. We do count our apprentices once they officially start with us in ratio. So we just obviously have to maintain ratio with the children, so we have to do it on a day where we have extra staff so they can come out of the ratio. You have to obviously factor in, when you book in with your tutors, time out of the room, because they need time to come and discuss what even if they've been observed and they're in the room, we try to take them out of ratio at that point, so that they can then come up and ask any questions to their tutor, or vice versa, so that they do a whole complete visit. We take time with the mentors to review what targets the mentors have been setting them, because sometimes that's a new role for the qualified person, though, that they're looking after an apprentice. So we'll just make sure that their targets are smart, that they're achievable, and that it works that they can achieve it, and also that it is challenging them a bit and it's pushing them on to learn something new. And then also, between the senior management team, myself, Becky and Gemma, we make sure we're available, because sometimes they just have questions that not necessarily linked to maybe childcare, but it might be linked more to like the employment side of it, or an exam question or something that they might have coming up ready for their professional discussion near the end, or just a question where they're like, I'm not sure, how does this link to what I'm actually practically doing? And they can't always correlate the two together. So it's kind of like, right, how will this work for me? So we spend lots of time, we have an open door policy, so they can come to us anytime and just ask us any questions, which I think is really beneficial. And it's also really good for us as management, because we know kind of their trail of thought and where they're at and their thinking, and what they're progressing on to next. So we have an area upstairs that is away from the children that the staff are able to use, which doubles up as like a staff room, a meeting room for other things. So we are lucky enough to be able to have a space where they can come away from the children. But equally, if that room is being used by someone else, then we have pockets of space within the rooms that if it's, say it's picking your moment, so if it's a quieter time, so we're saying our nursery, because we have a two-way split. We have our nest children, which are tiny babies until they're about 2.5, and then they move to our preschool room and they stay in preschool until they're nearly 5 going to school. So there's the way our rooms are laid out, that if, say, your nest children with our youngest ones, if they all have a group sleep after 1, because a lot of them do, if they're between 1 and 2 years old, that you're still maintaining ratios, there's still a member of staff there to help them answer their questions, but it's just quieter in the room because the majority of them are asleep. So the children's needs are still being met. There's another practitioner with the awake ones, but they may just be able to sit at a table and chairs in the corner of the room. It's a bit quieter and they can complete some of their work and tasks there. Or it's just kind of picking a room, like maybe after lunchtime, after it's been cleaned away, and then you've got the eating room, all the children have gone out to play. If you're maintaining your ratios, you can kind of go anywhere you need to go, just kind of find a quiet corner and let the children know that just you're busy doing some work for a minute and you'll come and play in like 10-15 minutes, and then they normally get distracted and go and play, and then you just get some quiet time to complete your work then. One piece of advice that I would give is find yourself a good training provider. If you find yourself a good training provider, such as Showcase, there are others around as well, we've used a few, and you build that really good relationship with the tutors and you find the right candidate, then you're off to a winning start really, because of all the things that I've mentioned. They become an integral part of your team and they become the same as any other team member. You just have to invest a little bit more time into them, but finding the right person is not always easy. But if you find the right provider, they help you. James always helps us. And as I say, from those steps we do to initially start by having that first initial chat, going on to inviting them in for a couple of hours and then a couple of days and then a couple of weeks, we find that gradual build up start really helps, because it's a two-way thing. We want them to be as happy here as we are happy with them. So it just gives everybody that time to adjust and feel if this is the right place for them.